Jack Warner was the youngest of the four Warner brothers. He was also the most arrogant and the most ruthless. His own nephew described him as treacherous, hedonistic, and tyrannical. After Sam Warner, the quiet genius of the family, died of a sinus infection, Jack Warner's worst instincts were left unchecked. In the 1950s, he went to his remaining brothers, Harry and Albert. He told them to sell their shares in the studio. Harry and Albert weren't happy, but they agreed, on one condition. Their youngest brother had to do the same. Jack promised to sell. Then he secretly bought the shares behind their backs, becoming the single largest shareholder and seizing full control of the studio. Harry and Albert were incensed. Welcome back to the Logoverse. This is the second part of my look back at the evolution of the Warner Brothers emblem. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, I've linked it in the description below. If you enjoy this content, please remember to like and subscribe. Before his stunning betrayal, Jack had already made a decision that left Harry fuming. The studio hit rough financial waters in the mid-1950s. Jack wanted quick cash, so he made a choice that would ultimately lead to his undoing. He sold off the company's entire pre-1948 film library, more than 700 titles, to Associated Artists Productions, or AAP. Harry couldn't believe it. They had spent years, decades producing these films, hundreds of them, and now they were gone. The studio did receive $21 million for the film catalog, but even in the 1950s, that was considered a shockingly low price tag. Elliot Hyman was a tire salesman turned media mogul with a talent for sniffing out desperation. He formed AAP as a way to buy up old film libraries dirt cheap, reselling them to television stations hungry for content. But Hyman wasn't acting alone. His financial backers had connections to organized crime. A decade later, those same shady figures would come knocking on Jack Warner's door. By the 1960s, Hollywood was changing fast. The old studio system was crumbling under enormous challenges. Television had proven itself as a serious competitor. Studios were betting big on lavish productions, only to see them lose millions at the box office. European films were gaining traction in the US. And most of all, a new generation of filmmakers had emerged. They rejected the old guard. They had their own stories to tell, stories that were daring and provocative, stories that would resonate with an equally young and rebellious audience. Now in his mid-70s, Jack Warner personified the out-of-touch, old-school movie mogul. The upheaval in Hollywood created the perfect opportunity for Hyman and his associates to make their move. Armed with financial leverage from their earlier dealings with Warner, they pressured him into selling his controlling stake in the company. By the late 60s, the kingdom had slipped from his grasp. Facing the inevitable, Warner made one final demand. The studio had to keep his family's name. Were it not for that provision, the iconic studio might have been rebranded completely. Hyman had his own production company, 7 Arts. It became the unlikely ruler of the Warner Brothers empire. The studio was rebranded with the clunky, corporate-sounding name Warner Brothers 7 Arts. Inside a dramatically simplified shield, the letter W and the number 7 are fused together into a single, stylized emblem. Known as the W7 logo, this new design reflected the changing attitudes of the late 1960s, a rejection of old-school glamour in favor of a more minimalist approach. This curious hybrid opened films like Steve McQueen's ultra-cool Bullet and Sam Peckinpah's brutal Western epic The Wild Bunch. But despite its use in these incredible films, the W7 logo never left a lasting impact. For one, the logo was frequently removed in later re-releases, replaced in favor of newer logos. But more importantly, the W7 era itself was fleeting. Whether managing a major studio proved more difficult than anticipated, or whether Hyman and his associates always intended to sell, the result was the same. The W7 era lasted roughly a year and a half before the studio was swept up in another takeover, this time landing in the hands of Kinney National Service. Kinney wasn't a movie studio or even a media company. It was a conglomerate built on parking lots and cleaning services. Hardly the glamorous world of Hollywood. But in the late 60s, Kinney began making a bold expansion into entertainment. In 1967, they acquired National Periodical Publications, the company we now know as DC Comics. In 1968, they bought Panavision, and the following year, they made their biggest move yet, acquiring Warner Brothers 7 Arts. This, by the way, is the connection that's linked Warner Brothers and DC Comics ever since. Under Kinney's ownership, Warner Brothers ditched the W7 logo and returned to a more familiar shield, albeit still vastly simplified and stripped down. The WB monogram returned, and a byline was added beneath it, reading, "A Kinney Company" or some alternative. Several color variations emerged. The most recognizable featured a gold shield with a red interior, set against a blue backdrop. Others were simpler, featuring just an outline. This incarnation of the shield lasted only a couple years, as Kinney soon found itself embroiled in a high-profile scandal, not in Hollywood, but in its parking operations. The controversy was so damaging that Kinney needed to distance its entertainment division from the bad press. They dropped the Kinney name and rebranded their entertainment division in 1972 as Warner Communications Inc. With that change, the studio's logo was updated yet again, but a much more dramatic change was just around the corner. In 1973, Warner Brothers introduced an entirely new logo known as the Big W. This striking design was the brainchild of genius Saul Bass, one of the most influential graphic designers in Hollywood history. Over his remarkable career, Bass crafted some of the most popular corporate logos ever made, including the Geffen Pictures G and the Hanna-Barbera Swirling Star. But he was perhaps best known for his collaborations with Alfred Hitchcock. Think of the hypnotic, spiraling title sequence in Vertigo, the kinetic rush of North by Northwest's opening, and the jagged, slashing credits at the beginning of Psycho. Later, he brought his visionary style to Martin Scorsese, designing the opening title sequences for Goodfellas, Cape Fear, The Age of Innocence, and Casino. His minimalist yet powerful design philosophy extended to the new Warner Brothers logo. The animation sequence was sleek, modern, and instantly memorable. 3 elongated red lines zoom toward the screen, forming a highly stylized W. Below this new emblem, the words Warner Brothers appear. As the red lines consume the screen, they leave behind 3 white lines on a red background. The white lines zoom closer until a rounded black square forms around them, the final stage of the logo's transformation. The byline, "A Warner Communications Company," appears, often followed by the word "Presents." A number of variations occurred, including different color schemes, giving the logo a certain versatility, but the fundamental design remained largely consistent. While I'll always miss the traditional shield, the Big W has earned a devoted following over the years. Part of its mystique comes from the legendary films it opened.
He's a White House consultant and nobody knows him. Yours is better.
The Big W became inseparable from the gritty, groundbreaking films of that era. Its legacy runs so deep that contemporary filmmakers often use it to evoke the spirit of 70s cinema. Ben Affleck opened his Oscar-winning Argo, set in 1979, with the Saul Bass emblem. Todd Phillips followed suit in Joker, which drew inspiration from Scorsese's The King of Comedy and Taxi Driver, both films that helped define the era of the Big W. As the 1980s dawned, a new kind of filmmaking emerged, the high-concept blockbuster. Warner Brothers would lead the charge in this new era of broader appeal, and that meant turning back to an old icon. Join me next time for the final episode, where I'll explore the modern logos and the immersive, CGI-crafted details that bring them to life. I'm Michael Cahill. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. Until next time.